This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/red5.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Coming to you, as always, from deeper than the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John Martelli, and joining you today, as always, is...
Garrett K. Jones.
Woo!
The one and only.
The one and only.
Although I'm not the only Garrett Jones. I've actually found this quite interesting. When if you Google my name without the middle initial, you get a former player for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh,
ironically enough, I have the Pirates flag right over my shoulder. I'm not a Pirates fan.
Yeah. Well, I'd forgive you if you were.
All right, so John, we are going to be talking about. We had kind of a double dose of Star Wars.
We did. We did. I mean, come on. One day, Bad Batch, and Mandalorian Season 3. Before we really get into Bad Batch, let's just give a quick little thoughts on the first episode of Mando Season 1, or Season 3, Episode 1. I enjoyed it. I thought it was, a good setting up for kind of what's going to happen. I did think there was a little bit of a misdirection. Were you the only one that thought that boy at the beginning was Din Djarin, and that this was going to be a flashback scene?
Yeah,
I was like the whole time. And then I see the N1 starfighter coming in. I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
that was a good bit of cinematography, because here I am. I'm thinking this is like flashback, because we saw bits of flashback for Din Djarin in Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is really kind of brilliant. This is great storytelling. We get to see, how he was inducted and what that induction. I still like the fact that we get to see the induction ceremony. That's really cool.
Yes.
But it was kind of I'm like, oh, that's a kind of a kick in the butt that that's not his background. Yeah. It's some other kid. I'm like, great.
And then Space Gator.
Yeah, dude, that thing was.
I know. I was like, then I noticed. I'm like, does that have a shell on it? Is that like a giant gator mixed with a giant turtle? What is that?
Have you ever seen an alligator snapping turtle? Those things are vicious.
Yeah. Hey, I live in the Midwest, so yes, I have. I have seen those. They're
so I like the episode. It was really action oriented, which I really appreciated. But the one thing I got to say about it is I don't feel like for me, action has to drive the plot. It has to drive the story and the character. We don't get anything new with the action.
Yeah.
We get that he is a fantastic, he's able to handle a starfighter just as easily as he was able to handle the Razor Crest,
right?
Which was a transport vessel or smuggling vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that he's got that skill, but I mean, that's something that has been, ingrained in him for decades. We don't see anything new as far as his character through the action. He's still a quick draw. He's still awesome. He's still willing to shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah.
And nothing really drives the plot other than it introduces us to this random pirate captain who's probably going to be the big antagonist for the season. Or at least a big antagonist.
Yeah. Although, did you kind of get a slight Pizza the Hut vibe from him?
Yes.
I
did. He kind of looked like the Muck Man from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was just kind of like, is that Pizza the Hut's cousin? Or where's the... I was kept waiting for someone to say, and Pizza the Hut's going to take out for you.
Yeah. It was... I don't know. It was cool though. I liked it. I'm kind of curious as to how much time has jumped between the end of Season 2 and the beginning of Season 3.
It looks like a little bit of time, just because Navarro seems so built up.
Yeah, there's so much development on Navarro. I'm floored by that, but I like the direction that Grief Karga is going with it. Yeah,
I did notice one person made a comment that he's now the most extra person in Star Wars by having the droid carry. But then I had to point out that, well, he still hasn't used the Force to levitate a TIE fighter, while at the same time using the Force to also make his cape flutter in the wind in a windless cave, like Vader did in Rebels. I mean, Vader's also the guy who purposely turned off his life support system just to make a more dramatic entrance.
This is true. This is very true.
Anakin Skywalker is the most extra person in the entire Star Wars galaxy.
I did appreciate the fact that Grogu that he tried to tackle one of the little aliens and claim it as a pet.
Bad baby. Bad baby.
And it's like if I could understand them when they were talking, how is it that Mando didn't? It's like, come on, it's practically English.
Yes, that was.
Like you're talking to your Portuguese cousin or something.
Yeah.
That joke would actually land better if you knew the context that we have a lot of Portuguese people here where I live.
Oh wow! But overall, enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
I'm still thinking that Bo-Katan is going to be one of the antagonists too, just because of how that whole interaction kind of went down.
Yeah.
I just think that's.
Yeah. The other thing that really caught me is the conversation that takes place between the armorer and Mando at the beginning. We got that conversation either at the end of season 2 or we got that conversation when Mando shows up in
we kind of got it in Boba Fett. Yeah.
And I'm like, why are we getting that conversation twice? We don't need it. We already know that this is something he has to do because it's already been it happened either in season 2 or Boba Fett season 1.
Yeah.
It's really unnecessary. Other than that, I mean, I had a great time watching it. It was really fun. I was cracking up because it was just a very enjoyable episode.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, they kind of hinted at what happened with Cara Dune.
Well, they wrote in the explanation for why we're not going to be seeing her in the show.
Yeah, she's out doing other things.
And it's a great way to write her off. It gives her a little bit more honor than she said some things that the studio didn't like.
Yeah,
but I say just rehire her, bring her back, fix this. And we can go about our business. We can move along.
Yeah. Well, so that moving on, segue, which I'm great at. Our main topic, of course, Bad Batch.
Season 2, episode 11.
11.
We've got 5 episodes left.
Ooh. This was a kaiju movie snuck into a Star Wars movie, which I'm all here for. I was here for it.
Feature.
Yeah, I liked it. I also like that it's a callback to a Clone Wars episode.
2 Clone Wars episodes.
Yes, 2 Clone Wars episodes.
It's the because it dealt with the Siege of Malastare, Siege of Ryloth, on which they found the original.
No, you're right the first time.
Was I?
Yes, because Ryloth is the Twi'lek planet. It wasn't with the Twi'leks.
Are you sure?
I believe so.
And I'm looking that up because I want to make sure that I don't want to correct you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Season 2, the 18th episode, 2-part storyline. Where is this darn creature from? And and it doesn't. I don't want the episode. I don't want the plot summary. I want the creature.
It's called the what was it called?
Zilow Beast.
Zilow Beast.
Yeah. I don't want. It doesn't tell me where it's from.
Malistaire. Malistaire.
Yep. You were right. I was right the first time. Cool.
Yeah. I also like that this was an episode that not only seems to call back to the Clone Wars, but also has some things in it that will call ahead to what will happen later on in the sequel series, in the sequel trilogy. This is really seems to be setting up the explanation to the line in Rise of Skywalker, somehow Palpatine returned.
Which is still one of the worst lines in any Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'd put I hate sand up there too, but that's just me.
Yeah. But after living in Arizona, it's very, very applicable.
Okay.
So one of the things that I got from this episode, is the very beginning of the episode, is I got serious Aliens vibes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
From it, just from the dark corridors, the hard shadows that were being used. And it was almost really hard to watch without turning up the contrast on my screen.
Yeah.
But I got that vibe just because of the way that things start playing out.
Mm-hmm.
And you even get that vibe when you see the Zilow Beast when the Bad Batch finally corners it and you see it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's about the size of a small bear, but its head is domed and it has no eyes, or visible eyes at least.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's.
I kept thinking to myself, this is a kid show, right? This is a kid. Yeah. This is a kid.
Well, and then when they find the slime on the floor, I'm like, it's so many callbacks. But then I have to go back and realize that Disney has bought out 20th Century Fox, and in doing so, they now own the rights to that franchise.
Yeah.
Meaning they can copy and paste however much they want.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of got the same. I definitely got horror movie vibes. It was definitely very, especially like you said, that first part.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one definitely seemed, after a couple of filler episodes, and one last week that kind of set the story back. This one really, I think, we're back on track with the main story, and getting the Bad Batch back into the overall galactic picture of what's going on.
And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about this particular episode is it, just like with the season premiere of Mando, it is very action oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slow burn, and then once the reveal is there, that it's a Zilow Beast, when it does its full final mutation, metamorphosis, whatever it is you get this there's this broader scope brought in, and you're like, oh, holy cow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder though what's going to happen to the village, because not to give too much away, but spoiler alert, the villagers who witnessed the Zilow Beast attack their home to drain it of its power, they are then captured by the Imperial forces and forced to leave their village.
Mm.
And I'm like, this is interesting. They're now political prisoners. What is the Empire going to do with them? And I feel like this is going to be one of those points where the Bad Batch is going to come back in and try to rescue these people, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're definitely on the run, because now their ship has been tagged and they got away. And so now, while they're already being searched for before, now there's more confirmation about what ship they're using.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. What did you think of kind of the side story of the cloning?
I mean, that wasn't all that front and center for me.
Right.
It was there, but I don't know. Like, what's interesting is I liked the doctor that they had there, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the actor, I recognized the voice. I'm like, man, that guy's voice sounds really familiar. So I looked up the cast for the episode, and it's Jimmy Simpson, who usually does more comedic roles, but he has done some more serious stuff. So if you've seen the Westworld on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
He played the young man version of Ed Harris's character.
Okay.
And he's really, and he started off as a comedian, but he's really good at playing these quasi-serious roles. He had a recurring appearance in the show Psych on USA. And he's a red herring character that you think is probably the bad guy that they're after, and he's not. And you still have your doubts about him until his final episode where he gets killed. And so, because there's just something weird about him, something a little creepy and off. And it's good writing, good performance. And usually comedians are better at delivering that kind of serious performance than your typical, trained actor. Just because they're able to be impromptu in the way that they respond to something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cloning wasn't all that. I mean, I figured that's probably what it was because the Zilow Beast was killed in Clone Wars and they didn't have any other resources.
And at the end of the episode, one of the last things they talk about is they're taking the beast away. They mentioned something about can we see about cloning it, cloning the beast. I was like, so it was good to see that kind of thing go full forward where it's not just like, oh, we're bringing this back, because this is it was like, no, this is a direct sequel to what happened in that episode.
And for me, there's some callbacks from the Thrawn trilogy written by Timothy Zahn, wherein if you the end of the second book when they find the dreadnoughts,
yes,
there's this whole skirmish on board, and one of the compartments gets blown open, and all these stormtroopers die of suffocation, essentially. And they start revealing their helmets, and they all have the same face because they're all clones. And in the Thrawn trilogy, while it takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi, it goes to show just how much the Imperial Remnant was trying to bring back Palpatine.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, the episode was really good. One of the things that caught me is if you look at the armor that's being worn by the clone troopers serving on those science vessels, it looks exactly like the armor worn in the video game for the Commandos.
Yes, yeah.
That first-person shooter video game that was supposed to be like the Star Wars answer to Halo.
Yeah. I got that. I definitely noticed that too.
It was bulkier. The helmet visors were older. And it's interesting because these clones, like, they probably know they're clones, but there's no indication that they had anything to do with Order 66. Like, they very rarely talked, if at all. They all wore the same armor. They all wore the same. I mean, they're the same color scheme for their armor, never changed. Yeah. And so there's no identifying marks as far as the Empire is concerned. These are clones that are expendable on a project that's off the books, more than likely, and B, you're never going to know which clone you're actually talking with because they all look the same.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely. Any particular character? I mean, you mentioned the Doctor. Other than that, I don't know if it was any particular Bad Batch character really stood out for me. They all kind of did their thing. I did think it was interesting that you're starting to see more of the split between the Batch and Sid. You definitely got that, and the decision to send the information to Rex at the end before they went and back to Sid.
Yeah.
Which I think is leading, going to lead more and more to that eventual split. which I would not be surprised. Do you think they'll wait till the last couple episodes, or do you think we'll be seeing that sooner rather than later?
It could swing either way because I mean, this particular episode had how do I go about it? This particular episode focused on the issues, and while they do call out, and it's mostly Wrecker that does the call out. Mm-hmm. While they do call out Sid, you can tell that she's trying to treat it as, hey, this is just business as usual. But at the same time, you're seeing that she knows she messed up, and if she doesn't play this right, she could lose her heavy hitters. Yeah, because right now they're the enforcers that she's got. Mm-hmm. And if they bail on her, she's got no protection. Whatever lucrative ideas she has, she'll have nobody to run her errands.
Yeah.
For her.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to come to a head sooner rather than later, but it could go either way.
Yeah.
Depending on how they want to protract the drama. And given how we've had so many episodes that feel like they're disconnected this season, or they're like little two-parters here and there. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if the writers did something to protract it. It feels like now that I've seen this episode, now that you brought it up, it does feel like there's some things that they're trying to explain away in the sequel trilogy through this series or through, and I'm like, I hope they don't use this as a retcon.
Yeah.
Because it makes it weak writing, but this episode especially was incredibly powerful because it shows just the extent that the Empire is going to for military applications. They're looking for anything they can because at this point the Death Star is in development. It hasn't been finished, and they need something as a weapon.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting how, and we saw this in earlier episodes where they're not necessarily manufacturing threats, but they're using these small threats as an excuse. The old saying, "Don't never let a good crisis go to waste."
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing because they're using that as an excuse for keeping a military around, which is what every throughout history, every fascist regime has ever done. Is they create some sort of boogeyman as an excuse for why they need to, go attack somebody or do these things. They say, well,
and then you've got those people who are like, well, the war's over. And it's like, is it though? Is it
though? Yeah. I mean, even going back to Rome, Rome expanded because, well, we have these hostile neighbors around us. We need to expand to get them out. So they expand to get them out. Well, we got these hostile neighbors around us, so now we have to expand even more. And then just keep going and going.
And then the empire collapses. And the prediction that Leia makes in episode 4, the tighter you crush your grip, the more systems will slip through your fingers, becomes a reality.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just been, that's one of the things I've loved about these shows that takes place either around this time period that we've had that kind of show the early beginnings of the Empire. Shows like Bad Batch. We had it in Andor. We've had it a little bit in Obi-Wan, of just showing how the Empire is rising to power and how it's strangling these systems slowly but surely. I personally have found that really fascinating. This early rise of the Empire and how insidious it's been, and it just gets into every aspect of life slowly but surely.
Yeah, and
before you even realize what's happening.
Agreed. There's some serious stuff going down, and I think the connections that are being made are solid connections. Even if it doesn't seem like it at first, at some point, that's just kind of the way that Dave Filoni writes things and threads things together, because he sees the end point, and he is wanting to make sure that the beginning and the end are threaded in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, and well, even going to later on and kind of flashing forward to Mando, seeing the ineffectualism of the New Republic, and how it's and how it's so ineffectual, and how these systems in the Outer Rim are just like, we want nothing to do with you either. We were fine without the Empire being here. We're fine without you being here.
We became separatists because we want our independence. That's the whole point.
Yeah. That whole when he said, we'll be the first independent trade, Well,
and think about how many systems even before that didn't want to even join up with the separatists coalition.
Yeah.
Like they just wanted to be left alone. We're like, hey, we're so far out here, leave us the heck alone. And yet the separatists are like, no, you gotta join us. And the New Republic's like, or not the New Republic, but the Republic was like, no, let us protect you. And they're like, we don't want your help.
Yeah.
Leave us alone. We are not important. And then something would be manufactured by Palpatine to play both sides and force the system to jump in and take a side.
Yeah. Well, overall grade, what would you give this episode?
I would say I'd probably give it about a 91 or 92%. And the only reason why I grade down because I feel like the writers just kind of like copied and pasted a few of the more intense scenes from Alien and Aliens and made it more palatable for young audiences. I mean, it's a nice callback.
Yeah.
But given how Disney / what is it now? Fox Studios or whatever they're naming it now.
Yeah.
And given how Marvel has taken on the reins of producing the Aliens comics, I'm really iffy on it. But overall, the episode was really good. And I liked that Kaiju callback that we got with the Zilow Beast introduction in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So it's fine enough. So I'm giving it at least a 92%. So it's an A-.
Yeah, I agree with that too. That's a good 92, 93, kind of that range. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I agree totally. Well, all right. Wrapping things up, then why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
Well, you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at GKJ_publishing, where I post about my book series, The Archives of Async Ran, which means the 5 Kingdoms. I've got 5 books out as of last month. All 5 books are available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle. And you can connect with me there, and where I also promote my show The Right Way on YouTube. So you can find me on YouTube at just look for GKJ Publishing, or you can search The Right Way. I do 3 segments a month where I do top 10 book recommendations. I do author interviews, and I have writing tips. In fact, this coming Saturday, I have a new set of writing tips. We're doing world building through the lens of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We're talking about law and politics and how you develop those systems within your world building. And of course, a week from Saturday on the 18th of March is going to be my 200th milestone episode, where I get to interview one of my favorite authors, Jonathan Mayberry, who has worked on Marvel. He is one of his first big mass-produced books was the novelization for the 2010 Benicio del Toro Wolfman film. He's done so many cool different projects. And in fact, one of the books that I own is autographed by him. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to this. I've been geeking out about this for the last 6 months.
Awesome. That is awesome. All right. As for us right here, of course, if you want to get a hold of us, you can email us warthestars1@gmail.com, or you can get a hold of us on Twitter at warthestars1. That is our Twitter handle. Also, check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. If you want to support the show, best way to do that, of course, is through patreon.com/War of the Stars, or check out our Spreadshirt shop, which just search War of the Stars. Go to Spreadshirt.com and search for War of the Stars. You should be able to find it there. Also, the links are in our Facebook page and our Twitter page.
And they should be in the episode description as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And of course, if you want to check us out, red5network.com. Check it out for all information on all the shows. And trying to think of, yes. If you want to check us out on podcasts, we're on every major podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. Yes. Why not? Pretty much everywhere fine podcasts are heard, you can check us out there. With that being said, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
This is the way.